it wasn't a moment, but it's something that has been happening over time. From a young age, I was always, bantu wena, umnyama nika mama, you know.
Umnyamani or umtaki.
It damages people, but nobody talk about it.
It's something that isn't spoken about a lot in South Africa, whereas it happens and we see it and witness it on a day-to-day basis.
Colourism is defined as a level of prejudice or discrimination based on the colour of one's skin.
Amongst the same race, you know, intra-racial groups.
The definitive origin of colourism is different from one continent to the next continent. Colonialism had an impact on the way in which people perceived skin tone and colour. In South Africa, perhaps that could have been one of the areas or the sources of colorism. In India, it could have been the same. Every continent and every country has a different journey because different countries were colonized by different parts of the world. In South Africa, remember the measurement standard for success and technology and wealth was that of the settlers who arrived here more than 500 years ago. And in the 1950s in South Africa, further to that, I mean, the legislation at that stage was to categorize people by race. So once they were categorized by race, and of course white South Africans were at a higher end of the spectrum than black South Africans at that stage.
It extends from, beauty products and the stuff that we see with hair, makeup, anything that has to do with the face, with the woman that you see on TV with, I don't want to name brands, but you see that they're only taking light-skinned women. So yeah. I can understand how someone's brain can be conditioned into thinking that
that's what's perfect.
This is how I can look and this is how I should look.
You see it in the cosmetic industry where lighter people are perceived as like the it girl, and people who are better. I mean, we look at a lot of South African celebrities, like female celebrities. Usually it's lighter skinned people that are there.
Mostly what they see on TV or on print magazines is that lighter skinned women are perceived to be beautiful and attractive.
You can take a nice picture, but if you don't edit well, it's not a picture. That's what they consider most. Make it perfect, like make it light, and remove those maybe pimples and stuff like that. It's what they see on TV.
The media sometimes portrays the villain as being somebody who's very dark, and the hero in the movie is traditionally before somebody who's very light-skinned. So these types of messages have been reinforced in media, have been reinforced on the covers of magazines, where the pinnacle or the essence of beauty was somebody who with milk white skin. Filters spoke to levels of self-esteem. It spoke to levels of confidence, my perception of myself versus the perception that others have of me, and how I'm portraying myself on these images on Snapchat or Instagram or on TikTok, and what filters I'm engaging with can sometimes be an indication in terms of how I see myself. So I don't think that filters do any favors in terms of heightening levels of self-esteem. So I think we must be very sensitive about how we are appearing and how we alter our images on these different platforms.
I don't look like this on real camera, but when I use maybe a Snapchat filter, I look lighter. Therefore, it also programs us to think that the lighter you are, the more attractive you'll be. The lighter you are, the more attention you get. With filters, it also contributes to how we feel about ourselves.
When you even go to on Instagram, they always post perfectly pictures with lighter skin and stuff like that. That's what they always believe, that they must look like them.
My best friend from my childhood was very light-skinned, so I think just seeing how she was more of preference and people, perceived her as more beautiful had an impact. But I was always with her, so just seeing that she's more on an advantage or at an advantage made me somehow want to be, lighter.
So I have a lot of light-skinned cousins. We have long hair and, they were skinny. And that's where I started learning that my skin color is different from the other girls. And that's where I started learning that, I'm a bit thicker than other girls and, maybe I should lose weight.
You'd find guys would more likely be drawn to the lighter skinned people or lighter skinned girls.
I've experienced people telling me that I would never be with the dark skinned person.
I remember one of my closest friends, he said he would never and ever date a darker skin tone girl. And I asked why, and he said in isiZulu, Babi, and I don't want to date Amachai. That's what he said. Amachai, it's another term connotated to ugly people, according to him. So he said, Ama yellow bones, they are beautiful.
Because of we grow up knowing Gucci, the yellow bone is always attractive, and we as men, just because your skin is lighter, then we always believe that no, we are the one compared than, There's no way maybe the white, the lighter woman pass you, then we can't even react or whatever, because automatically, actually, when you see umdana vele or then automatically there's something happened in your mind. Okay, then you're gonna start approaching her. Even if you propose, we are actually a threat. But just because you light.
Guys, when they date lighter skin tone women or yellow bones, if I may put it that way, is that they sort of get a social status in the community. And guys want that, I'm the main man, I'm dating the most prettiest girl in the township or in my section. I want to be respected. It's all about bragging rights.
Colorism affects your confidence when you're with others in a manner that you become more conscious of your surroundings, and your focus is really on yourself and your capabilities, but it's mostly on what are the other people thinking of me. You're always trying to figure out what are they thinking, what do they see, more than being in tune with yourself and being able to express yourself from the person that you are.
Sometimes I would take pictures with people and they're like, please don't stand next to me because you're going to make me look dark.
Treating other people differently does more damage than it seems on the inside. What it does to a person is that they doubt themselves, they doubt their capabilities because of how you perceive them based on their color tone. They doubt whether they are worth being in a place they're supposed to be. So from the comments that you say and your perception of them doesn't only change them temporarily, but in the opportunities that they will pursue, it restricts them because already they've been told that you look in a different way.
It gives you a low self-esteem, and you keep hearing comments about, oh, you're light, oh, your friends are yellow, or your family members are yellow, so they're prettier. It breaks your self-esteem. And because you don't get that fulfillment in your skin tone, you switch your attention to something else. Or maybe if I dress a certain way, I'll get attention. Maybe if I do my hair a certain way, I'll get attention.
I even got to a point where I wanted to bleach my skin, and I actually did it. At a very young age, I was using, moisturizers and chemicals that would actually make your skin lighter, just so I can, fit in or look like a yellow bone, because at that time it was a thing. So I started bleaching my skin. I was in grade 10, and I remember the first time I was exposed to it was when my now best friend came to school, and she was looking lighter. It was after school holidays, and I was like, what happened to you? And she's like, no, I'm using this cream, and we're all like, no, you look so pretty, she looked, and I was like, oh, okay, what do you use? And I remember me and one of our other friends were like, okay, you must get it for us, because we were in boarding school, so we didn't have access to, going to the shops and stuff like that. she came back with it, and then we started. And I couldn't wait to see the difference, because I don't know, I was so, the idea of being light-skinned was, it was something else. So I remember waiting patiently and just applying it and stuff like that. And then when it finally came, I started being so scared of going out as well, because I was like, what are people gonna say? I started getting more comments of, you're beautiful. So I realized that also people, as much as I think being light-skinned is a beautiful thing, people also feel the same way. And yeah, people were starting to say, oh, you look better like this. Where did you get it? I also want to get this. And more girls started wanting to do it back in high school. So the influence also it had on other girls was very big. So yeah, I was treated differently, definitely. But I was also very shy going out, because I felt like, it's such a bad thing to do. And I think I was fine back in boarding school, but when I went back home, that's when I started facing my parents saying, don't do it, and my brother saying, no, don't worry, you will be lighter as you grow up, so yeah, you don't have to bleach your face or stuff like that. And then my neighbors also saying, what happened to you? So yeah, and then when I finally stopped was when my skin started reacting to it, and I started getting pimples, and I started, everything. And that's when I was like, no, this needs to stop. And that was like 2 years later. So it was a long period of bleaching my skin and damaging it. And yeah, that's when I finally stopped. And when I stopped, I actually started, with my skin, I had to go to the dermatologist and get rid of everything and all the damage that has been done. And it has its negative impacts.
First of all, the reason why your skin color is a certain color is because you are genetically meant to look that way. And by bleaching, you are altering the function of your melanocytes. And by so doing, any destruction to the function of cells in the body leads to various risk factors, and one of the greatest ones being formation of cancers or malignancy transformation, as we would put it. And also then puts one at a higher risk of UV ray exposure, and that can also still lead to skin cancers as well, can lead to skin damage, and in other cases can even lead to premature aging of the skin.
I would find women, darker skinned women, toning their skins and wearing warm clothes in the heat of Limpopo. You can just imagine how hot it is in Limpopo, and these ladies are wearing like jackets, I don't know, those things they call it leggings and migusha. And I took a keen interest to ask one of the ladies, she's my neighbor, that why are you wearing such warm clothes in this heat? And she said to me that the reason why I'm wearing these warm clothes is that I'm trying to be light in skin, so I'm using creams, and now I have to cover my body so that I can become light. And then I asked, what are the reasons for you to do that? And she said to me, one of the biggest reasons is that we want to attract you.
In most cases, I do understand why people feel insecure about their skin color. It is because society and history in general has taught us that there is something wrong with brown skin color, and the darker the shade, the more it had been looked down upon in the past. And this is why people feel that the lighter they are, the more they'll be accepted in society. And of recent, there has been a trend as well where now Africans, and in particular in South Africa, where we call light-skinned people yellow bones, and it has become an admiration, mostly by males, that if you are lighter, you are regarded to be more beautiful. If you are lighter, you are found to be more attractive. So young females in particular have thought that and felt that if they are lighter, it increases their prospects of actually finding a boyfriend, getting married, and they are not particularly wrong, because it has become quite a popular concept to be lighter.
It also depends on how we were brought up. You know, sometimes parents would make comments that would force a child to reflect on themselves and think that they are not enough, you know. So things like you, twenty, you know, such things would make one tend to wonder what is wrong with my skin. So it could be a number of factors that leads one to get to a point where they sit down, look at themselves, and then ultimately conclude that my skin tone is not enough, I'm not good enough the way I am, and for me to be good enough and acceptable, I need to enlighten my skin. Then they begin the journey of enlightening their skin.
When you're teaching a black child that actually your forefathers are cannibals, you know, they start hating themselves. They start loathing who they are. Hence you see the skin bleaching. And I don't know, we don't take pride in being people of color or African people because of such things, the programming.
The more we admit that we are colorist and we have a problem, I think the better things are going to be, because we're going to want to change certain things and we're going to want to educate ourselves on not being colorist.
Don't even think that you have to convince someone that you're beautiful for being a certain type of skin color.
Everything starts at home. The way we speak to our siblings is very important. The way we speak to our children is also important. So I'd advise abazali to just try and do better.
Parents should raise their children in knowing that a person's value is not necessarily determined by their color, and raising children who are confident in themselves, and raising children who are not going to be the ones victimizing others as well.
Black child, you're beautiful. Your kinky hair is beautiful. We teach that, and we break the cycles of idolizing people for their race. It's possible. If it could be done, then it can be undone.
Charity starts at home. Like, it starts with young kids. That's where you have to start. Stop mentioning that someone is dark, but like, dark for who? What point are you trying to make? So I think it starts with us. Like, we should start with this thing where we stop associating color to beauty norms.
You are dark and you are beautiful. I think the affirmation of telling a person that you are dark and you are beautiful, that gives them confidence. Teaching one another from our family members in the community, having documentaries and having shows where we get people to come and talk about their experiences and how bad did it affect them and what's the way forward.
I think it's up to us as society to change this narrative. It is a wrong narrative. We are Africans in Africa. Our skin color is supposed to be all shades of brown. We are brown colored. As dermatologists, we have a responsibility to not become part of the market that carries out this skin bleaching trend. I think we have a responsibility to our patients because we know better. We know the side effects, the consequences in the long run. So I believe it is our responsibility as dermatologists not to chase money, because there is a lot of financial gain in this new trend, and some people look at it for the monetary gain that comes with it, that if someone comes to me and they want to bleach their skin, then I have got a client for life. Because another thing is that with most of the treatments that are used for skin bleaching, you need to maintain it. So it's not a once-off treatment. You constantly have to keep coming back for those treatments to maintain that light skin. But I think as doctors, we are bound morally to do what is right, to do right by our patients. So to all my fellow dermatologists, my fellow doctor colleagues in whatever industry they're in, I think it is our responsibility to advise our patients better. We know better, and honestly speaking, most of us don't do these treatments to ourselves. If I'm not doing it to myself, then it cannot be good for the patient.
Issues of skin color are more of a cry based on what is happening internally with a person. So let's treat our kids equally. Let's build them to accept themselves as they are. Because the battle is actually psychological more than what we see when the person begins to change their skin tone. So if we can help our children build a beautiful self-concept about themselves, help them find their own identity, which has got nothing to do with their body weight, which has got nothing to do with their skin tone, which has got nothing to do with their gender, but them being a person, a human being. Let's teach them that before your skin tone, before your gender, before your body is thick or thin, you are human. Accept yourself as human with good traits, and let's have them focus on what's good about them as human beings.
It starts with a level, and this is a level of psychology that we have to engage in, and I think more families and friends and mums and dads should be speaking to their kids about this type of thing. The more we move into a zone of self-acceptance, the faster the child or the person or the individual is able to move into a zone of self-control. And once we stand in the zone of self-control, then only can I influence my partner, my community, my friends to start seeing the real essence of beauty, which is me, as opposed to the color of my skin and the texture of my hair.